Well, again, I am grateful to God for the call that you have extended to me, again, to serve another term as your bishop. That was something that I never presume, because I don't think it is wise to presume that when an assembly comes together that you know what's going to happen, because we don't. We don't know what's going to happen. But I am grateful for your willingness to extend that call and for the trust that you have placed and that you are continuing to place in me as your bishop. That is a great trust. And I take it seriously. I believe that we are called as bishop to be pastor to the Synod. And that can be a challenge because we have a lot of different roles. And one of the blessings I have is I have Chris and Irma who do a lot of paperwork. And I appreciate that. But as the pastor of the Synod, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is the reality of law and gospel. Law and gospel is central to who we are as Lutherans. Law and gospel is central to how we preach. Law and gospel is a part of our DNA as Lutheran Christians, and I think it's something that we need to be thinking about and focusing on as we move forward together. The law that speaks the truth to us, the law that is a gift that God gives to us to help order our lives, the law that holds a mirror to us that reminds us that we aren't living up to the way that God would have us live, and the gospel that says, even so, God is for you. Those wonderful words of Luther in the Heidelberg Disputation. The law says, do this, and it is never done. The gospel says, believe this, and it is already accomplished. I think that's something to think about as we order our life and as we think about where we are and where we are going as Synod. Because we need to be people of the law. We have to tell the truth. And there's some truths that we need to tell about our life. Not just about COVID, although COVID is a presenting reality. Not just about civil discord, although civil discord is a presenting reality. The truth of who we are as church and who we might aspire to be. 6 years ago, when I was in the election process, I said I would focus my attention in 5 areas particular of emphasis. Being present, encouraging creative growth, accountability with our partners, investment in Briarwood paying dividends, and naming privilege and working for justice. And we have been about that over the last 6 years, but even in the last 2 years. Being present, even especially in pandemic, we had to learn new ways to do that. But now we're blessed that some of these things that we know how to do are coming back together. Talk about campus ministry. Last fall, I had the fun of joining Jim and some of his students and doing a cookout there on the campus of UNT, cooking out burgers on the side of the road, people walking by on their way to class, providing food and relationships, talking to them. It was a great opportunity to be present, being present with New Life in Christ on Super Bowl. I told you, JT, the back of your head would make my slides. There you go. JT Miller being installed at Zion McGregor, being able to be present for installations. Being present with our congregations, visiting, just a variety of things, living into the work that we do together, being present when communities are struggling. St. Matthew's in Fort Worth had an opportunity in 2020. In 2021, the Episcopal Diocese of Fort Worth lost a court case, and 6 of its congregations were evicted from their properties. St. Matthew's said to St. Christopher's in Fort Worth, come on in. And as a result of that hospitality, we then last fall had a wonderful service of celebration with Bishop Mayer as we talked about what it means to be in mission together. It means our space is your space. So we do the work together of the gospel, being present together. Talk about creative growth. You heard a lot about the Leadership for Faithful Innovation, the LEAD journey, the stewardship team. I'm not going to spend too much more time on that, but I do want to say thank you. Our offering last evening from our worship service was $5,000. And that $5,000, half will go to the Eastern Conference, who are hosting us, and half will go to our stewardship team ministry. So you have provided $2,500 more, Irma, for the stewardship team to continue the good programs, to grow programs, to help congregations and individuals grow in stewardship. Coaching and coach training. If you don't know about coaching, talk to Jason, talk to me, talk to your coach. Talk to Kendra. Coaching is the one thing that I know works to move leaders from stuck to unstuck. Coaching works. If you need a coach, we've got coaches. Engage that ministry. We encourage creative growth through the new ministries you heard about yesterday. You heard about the table and the kingdom. You heard about St. Church of the Damascus Road, Jay's Place. If you don't know about Jay's Place, I'm shocked, because Dan Lund should have told you already. A first of its kind ministry to men coming out of incarceration, and we bless that ministry on Palm Sunday. And it's an amazing thing to see as we serve and live in ministry to those in our midst. And our Parish Lay Ministry Academy, what a blessing that has been for us and our synod. Phil Hines, are you in the room, or did you already leave too? Oh, there he is. We all need to say thank you. Phil, stay standing. We need to say thank you. Thank you, Phil, not just for taking up the mantle of Dean of the Parish Lay Ministry Academy these last 5 years and seeing that ministry grow and flourish even in the midst of pandemic. We still figured out how to do it, but also for teaching, and now 2 decades worth of time in our Parish Lay Ministry Academy. The PLMA program of NTNL is a unique and blessed gift that raises up leaders, and people are watching us and wondering, how do we replicate that? I'd say, don't replicate it, just join us. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. But Phil's quitting. He says he's done. It's spring. And so we are grateful to God to announce, and she was going to be with us here this morning, but she wasn't feeling well. But Miss Madeline Richard, who is a PLM, Madeline Richard, a member of St. John in Dallas, has accepted the call to step up as the new Dean of the Parish Lay Ministry Academy. And so we give thanks for Madeline's willingness to do that, and the fact that she knows the importance of that ministry because she's a part of it. And Jesus Escamilla is going to continue to serve as Dean of the Spanish language cohort. So they're going to work together to continue to grow our ministry. So as you have occasion, welcome Madeline into that role. Accountability and accompaniment with our ethnic-specific ministries, Conferencia Latina and the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Sierra Leone. One of the main emphases that we have been a part of over the last 5-6 years has been our relationship, or broken relationship, with Santa Maria in Irving. That relationship got broken in 2015 when a faction of the congregation tried to break off and retain control of the property. We went to court. We don't want to go to court. That was not why I went to seminary, was to take congregations to court. But there was an issue of accountability that needed to be held up. And we won that court case to have possession of the building. The people of Santa Maria in exile gained possession of that building. But here's the amazing thing that happened. We didn't have to kick out all the people who had been there before. Over the last year and a half, we have been working for reunification, of bringing us back together. And so I give thanks for Pastor Moises Carrasquillo, for Tulio, for Martin, for all of the leaders of Santa Maria who have helped us to come together, for Pastor Irma, for Maria Torres, for the members of our Synod administration team that have brought this community back into relationship with the NTNL so that it can be what we know it can be, a growing, thriving ministry of our Synod proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ. And here's an amazing thing that happened at all that. The folks who had been worshiping at Holy Trinity, thank you, Holy Trinity, Pastor Norma Cooper, who is retired, and Pastor Gus Vinahetis, the folks who had been worshiping at Holy Trinity, some of them said, we don't want to go back. We were welcomed here. Can we be members here? And the people of Holy Trinity said yes. And so now we have not one Spanish language congregation and one English language congregation, but now we have the Santa Maria community, and we have a bilingual Holy Trinity in Irving that better reflects the community in which it is planted. We give thanks to God for all of this. Accountability with our partners in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Sierra Leone. My bishop partner, Brother Moses Kobomomo, was reelected last year to serve a term in office, and he sends his greetings to you. His letter to you is posted, and at the end of my report, there's a video that you're going to receive from the young people of Sierra Leone. Just a caveat, they're writing on the hood of a car at one point of it. No, I don't think either bishops endorsed that. The young people are going to do what young people are going to do. Some of you might have been in 2013 in Sierra Leone when the dedication of the Jubilee Center. That building on the hill in Sierra Leone, a vision that was dedicated, it was unfinished. It's still, frankly, unfinished. But it has been serving, and the community have been using it. But last year, a year ago, a windstorm blew the roof off. And there were deep concerns that it wasn't going to be usable, that it might fall into disrepair. So I asked Bishop Momo, what do you need? And he said, we need $20,000, and here's the invoice. Here's the way it's going to happen. And so from our disaster funds from NTNL, we sent $20,000 to them. The roof is repaired. They're worshiping in the Jubilee Center. It's serving for mission. Friends, it will likely never be finished in the vision of the way it was. But it is being used for ministry, and it is in good repair. And that is a gift of accountability with Bishop and myself and you and the community to know where our funds are being given and where they are being spent. And that is a gift. But you know what? I don't really care about building buildings in Sierra Leone. What I care about and what I believe Bishop Momo cares about is building up the people. And through the Ebola crisis, they built up people. Through COVID, they built up people. And now they have these young people you see in that picture. Those are 5 seminarians from the ELCSL who are going to seminary in Nigeria with a great joy and hope that they're going to come back and help start a Lutheran seminary in Sierra Leone. There's a vision for mission there, and we're going to continue to support that, to build up people and to help our communities grow. Making our investment in Briarwood pay dividends. I outlined all of this 3 years ago for you all, and it's still there, it's still relevant. In 2015, we dedicated the building. We dedicated the Leadership Center with the vision and the goal that I was going to spur new revenue growth, that was going to help Briarwood to achieve sustainability. The reality is there were more revenues coming in, there were more activities coming in, but new costs came online as well. And so year over year, as you see in 2015, 16, and 17, Briarwood was sustaining significant losses. Those losses were covered by either one-time angel gifts or by cash for debt swaps that kept Briarwood cash flow positive. But we knew by 2018 that model wasn't working. Your director, Phil Gillespie, realized that model wasn't working and chose to retire, step down. He's now serving in the Texas-Louisiana Gulf Coast Synod. We needed to do something different. And in 2019, we presented what we were going to do with the Leadership Center, the partnership between Synod and Briarwood, and to try and find a model that would be financially sustainable to support all of the ministries that Briarwood is about. And I can report to you in 2019, it worked. We had the most revenue that Briarwood's ever had, the most activities, the most programming. It exhausted everybody. But at the end of the year, the net positive results were more people ate meals there, more people spent nights there, more things happened there than ever before. And into the first quarter of 2020, things were still going. It was tough, but things were going. And then March of 2020. And I remember the last meeting we had there, a Via de Cristo gathering. And then we had to shut down, as everybody did. And Robert outlined all of those realities. It has been a challenge. But as I said before, because of the decisions about selling some of the property to pay off debt, Briarwood's creditors couldn't come calling during that time, and so we could sustain the ministry. But we need to be thinking critically about where we go from here. Well, in the midst of all of that, Briarwood has still been paying dividends for our Synod. Activities are happening. Some of you were with us September of 2021 when we had a regathering event outside. We had those great popsicles. What a wonderful day it was to be together outside. We had our fall leadership convocation there. Alicia Granholm talking to us about hybrid ministry, about how do we do ministry in this new world in which we're living. We've had all sorts of small groups coming out, and we're excited about that. We also went online, and lots of opportunities online, from deep theological reflection that Robert outlined to practical application for church councils, trainings, bringing in leaders from our Synod, and reaching out beyond our Synod for leadership training. And what's next? Well, Briarwood's open to you to host your event. We're looking at options for the summer. We have 2 things on the calendar that you can plug into with your youth. If you have high school youth who are planning to go to Minneapolis, we have an event for you. July 7th through 10th, Harold Huddleston, who's the youth director here at King of Glory, is coordinating with Anna at Briarwood to make that event happen. We're going to have a multicultural youth event like Mile that'll be held July 21 through 23, and our leadership in our multicultural congregations, those are congregations with a majority of children, youth of color in the youth group, are going to have that opportunity, and we're going to continue to assess and discern the next best steps. Naming privilege and working for justice. There's a lot of ways that we are called to name privilege and work for justice. One of them was what Irma lifted up a year ago, and it was just a year ago, Irma. It might seem like a longer time than that. It was just a year ago that buses full of young, unaccompanied men, boys, were showing up at the Kay Bailey Hutchison Center. And the call went out to the church communities in Dallas to say, how are you going to support these young people? And our folks came together, our Conferencia Latina and others came together to provide help and services to them, but also to provide worship, to remind, subtly maybe, our Catholic siblings that not everyone is Catholic. There are Protestants among these young boys. And so we did that work. We were here at King of Glory this past year with Mitri Rahab, our brother from Palestine, talking about the realities that they are facing as Lutheran Christians. And I think the dedication of Jay's Place is a great example of working for justice. It's pretty clear. I tell Dan all this all the time. He's got the best message in the Synod because Jesus pretty clearly said something about visiting people in prison, didn't he? And if we aren't helping those who are incarcerated, if we aren't helping those who are trying to get out of incarceration, out of addiction, we need to reorganize our priorities. So those are all things that we have been working on. They're all things that we have been doing, and so many great things have happened. But as we think about law and gospel, about truth and reality of where we're at, there's some also realities we got to face. And COVID has accelerated some of those realities. We were heading in certain directions demographically, we know that. COVID accelerated those. I asked the ELCA to send me some data over the last 10 years on our congregations. And they sent me data on the number of child baptisms, adult baptisms, confirmations, deaths, and average in-person worship attendance over the last 10 years. You can see from these numbers there's a pretty clear trend line. Now, 2020 is 2020, right? Don't make a trend off of 2020. And don't worry about getting, if you want to get a photo of it, you can. We're going to see these again, because we're going to talk about this. This is truth. This is reality. And numbers aren't the center of the church, but friends, these are numbers of human beings too. And the other thing I don't want to say, I don't want you to come away from this is this isn't about shame or guilt that we're a declining denomination, because we are. But you know what? That's the reality of the Christian church in America right now. We are declining as a share of the population. It's a reality. The question is, are we going to see that and start thinking about how do we do this? How do we think about reaching out to that million new people that the ELCA is calling us to consider? These numbers become even a little more stark when you look at them as a percentage, as you look at them in the average per congregation. The average congregational baptisms under 2 or 3 a year. And that has ramifications for youth ministry. That has ramifications for adult ministry. That has ramifications for how we budget ourselves, how we align ourselves. And so I lift this up to you as your bishop to tell you the truth. To say this is where we're at. And I'm not saying that this is us, we have to somehow take responsibility and say we aren't doing something right, or they weren't doing something right 10 years. This is a generational pattern. The question is how do we change that if we believe what we have in the gospel is worth sharing with other people? Not to build ourselves up, to make us more proud. Look at how great my church is. But because we care about the people who need to hear the word of God through the gospel that says, you are beloved. That's what we heard from those folks on the table yesterday. Remember the video? What do they like about that community? They're heard. They're seen. They're welcomed. So where do we go? We have opportunities. New things are happening. We've outlined so many of those new things are happening. Challenging decisions are being made. Congregations are facing the reality that maybe we're better together than we are to continue to try to be silos from one another. Having congregations with our communities in Lubbock about how do these congregations do ministry together. Central in Bethany here in Dallas trying to figure out how do we do Word and Sacrament ministry and support Central Bethany's Day Scared. How do we do ministry together across our synod? How do we remember that we're in this thing together and no magic program is going to change generational decline? But individuals can. You all can. By catching the spirit of the gospel and saying, who in my midst needs to hear? Who in my midst needs to be invited? Who needs to know? And they probably might not look just like you. They might think a little differently than you. That might challenge you. But this is something we are called to be about. As your bishop, I want to walk with you as we do this work, as we raise up leaders, as we focus on relationships and building communities that know how to welcome and invite, and as we think about who we are, not to build us up, but because we know the gospel is powerful. This meme has walked with me a lot over the last couple years. Luther's words, "The law is for the proud, and the gospel for the brokenhearted." I think it's fair to say that none of us thought our churches would be where they are today in 2022, 6 years ago. I can tell you, when I was elected 6 years ago, I had no idea what the world would look like in 2022, but I certainly didn't think it'd look like this. I didn't think we'd be living through a generational pandemic. I didn't think we'd be seeing all of these challenges, and yet here we are. But I believe we have an opportunity to connect and to reach out, to make sure that our Lutheran witness to the law and gospel is heard across our territory, to build up people and leaders for the sake of the gospel. But it's going to take one-on-one. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy. As Nick said, the church-wide organization can't do that for you. We can provide resources. We can walk with you. We can encourage you. And we have examples of where things are happening. But it's going to take courage. And I know we have that within us, because we know what it is to struggle. We know what it is to go through a storm. We realize that in that storm, we weren't all in the same boats. We went through it differently. But we also know that in all of that, God was with us. So in our griefs and our joys, God is present. So now, as way of a intro to lunch, because I realize I am between you and your lunch, this will be our brothers and sisters from Sierra Leone can offer our lunch and prayer through their song. If we could have that video, please.
On behalf of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Sierra Leone, we dedicate this song to NTNL and to Lutherans all over the world.
We stand, yes, Lutherans. We believe we are saved by grace, coming to perfection. We stretch our hands and reach to the whole world.
We are set for the rest, and the best is spreading us out. Smiling light, determination. We are crossing borders. We are crossing borders.
Little Lutheran sing, little Lutheran sing. To every tribe, to every nation. To every race, to every culture.
Together as one, holding our hand, searching every corner, breaking every fence, every barrier. Never we stand, divided we fall. Till we walk, message we want. So let us know, crossing borders. We are crossing borders. We are crossing borders.
To reach unbelievers and bring them to Jesus.
We are crossing borders.
Reach out for the young and the aged.
We are crossing borders.
To every nation, to every tribe.
We are crossing borders.
Ooh.
We are crossing borders.
We are crossing every mountain, every river, every ocean, every valley.
cross-border operation.
Lunch is available for you in the activities center. There's Jason's Deli boxes. I think it'll be similar. You'll go in, there'll be 2 lines, and we will reconvene at 1 o'clock. Enjoy your time together.